So today we're going to show you how to point a patio, in this case it's an Indian stone patio, with a brushing compound. Today we're using a semitone brushing compound and it's a buff one. Now they come in a vacuum sealed bag like this, but there are also other products which are a two-part epoxy resin, which we do find are a little bit better. The GFTK is particularly good and sets like iron. They also do lots of different other compounds to suit the different paving. So for example, porcelain, natural stone, so on and so forth. But today, like we said, we're using the one-part vacuum sealed one. If we come over here, the most important thing is you need to wet the patio down. If you don't wet the patio down, you're going to get staining on the patio after, and that can take up to 6 weeks for it to disappear. So we're just going to put this over here now because we've mainly wetted it down. And if you have to wait 6 weeks for the staining off the brushing compound to go, that can be 6 weeks that you don't get paid for, and that's not what we want, is it? So we've got to be very vigilant there. When we are brushing in, we don't want to be brushing down the joint. That it's basically the same as tiling. That will drag out the pointing if you go down the joint. We find it better if we go at roughly 45 degrees to the paving, which means you're not dragging down any of the joints. So we're carefully working our way back. Now everybody else has their own way of doing things, but we find that this way works for us. So, as we've said, we're coming across the joints now. And if Gavin, you could just do the first pass with the finger trowel for me, mate. Now, as you can see here, you can just put that on an angle, Gav.
Yeah.
It needs a little bit more of a brush in there. It always takes 2 passes, especially if you're using porcelain with it because they're narrower joints, to get a nice flat finish in between the 2 pavers. You want it to meet both sides of the pavers. Now occasionally, like here, if we can get just in there, we have got somewhat of a ribbon there that we need to deal with. So if I could just borrow that a second, Gabby.
Yep.
So what we tend to do is we'll be a bit clever about these things and we'll put it, I've got my trowel on an angle there, and we'll put it on an angle like that. So we're not getting any trip hazard. So if you're going to put your feet, it'll go up the angle and you're not going to catch your feet. But like I say, it's long, smooth strokes, and we want it to the top of the paving. Hence you can see there, that's what we're after. That's the finish that we want there, meeting both edges of the paving. Now we'll move on to the finish in a short while, but there are our tips. So it's wet it down, most important, and keep it wet. Open the bags out onto the patio. A good quality soft brush that isn't going to lose lots of bristles, otherwise that'll go in with your pointing. And it's 2 passes at least on the joint, and we want them flush with the top of this surface and the next surface. As we've said, if it's going on an angle where we've got a ribbon there, we want to point it on an angle. Just put your trowel, as we've said, on a 20, 30 degree, whatever it is, and then just run it in so it's meeting both surfaces and we haven't got a trip hazard. So here's a tip. When you're pointing the edge of the overhang of a patio, the edge of a patio, with this epoxy resin, because you've got about a 20mm overhang over the retaining wall there, if you haven't got something to stop it falling through, then you're just going to have a big gap there, which is going to look quite ugly if we're honest. So what we do is we put a cement fillet all the way along and we put it on an angle. So the angle comes from the bottom and up to the top of the flags there. So if you can see, the cement fillet comes up to the top. So then when we come to point the overhang of the patio, like we're doing here, So I just put my hand there just to stop it and firm it and compact it. As you can see, it isn't falling through because the fillet on an angle to the paving is holding it in position. That's another tip that we've got when you're pointing a patio. When doing this job, I feel that these are an invaluable piece of kit. It's just a little handheld blower, and it just helps you get off all these little bits here that you might not just get off with a brush. And if you just watch how we do it, we work across the patio. What you'll find is it tends to push into the joints what was on the flags, and as you can see there now, there's absolutely nothing on the flags there. If we get a little close up, I'll just do it on this one here. So as you can see, all the residue there, the little bits of sand. Great piece of kit, cost you about 100 quid with the battery and the charger. Brilliant. And as you can see, invaluable.